73 days. That's how long Ensign Ilara Novak had been floating in the emergency escape pod, drifting through the endless void between stars. The rescue beacon had failed on day 12. Life support was down to 17%. She'd run out of emergency rations 3 days ago. A blinking light on the comms panel jolted her from half-sleep. Impossible. No one could hear her out here, not this far from established shipping lanes. Not after the Kelthid ambush that had torn the research vessel Meridian to shreds, leaving her as the only survivor, as far as she knew. With trembling fingers, she pressed the receiver. Static crackled, then cleared. ESS 415, this is UNSC Harbinger. We've locked onto your beacon. Stand by for recovery. ETA 42 minutes. Tears streamed down Ilara's hollowed cheeks. Humanity hadn't abandoned her after all. Even out here, over 11 light years from the nearest human outpost, they'd found her. How? She croaked, voice raw from disuse. New prototype quantum array. We picked up your emergency pod's registration echo 3 days ago, came the reply. Hold tight, Ensign. You're going home. But home had changed. As the Harbinger pulled her pod into its recovery bay, Ilara realized this wasn't a standard rescue vessel. This was a warship, the newest class of dreadnought in the United Nations, Space Command Fleet. The recovery bay alone was larger than the entire research section of the Meridian. Captain Rhodes met her at medical. Unlike the sterile white uniforms of peace-era officers, his bore combat insignia and a sidearm. Welcome aboard, Ensign Novak, he said, eyes weary but kind. You're a miracle. We've been searching for survivors of the Meridian for over 2 months. Sir, what's happening? Ilara asked, accepting a nutrition pack from the medical officer. Why is a warship out this far? The Meridian was just a research vessel. Rhodes shared a look with his XO, Commander Vega, before addressing Ilara again. The Kelthid ambush wasn't random. It was the first strike in what's becoming a full-scale conflict. The Meridian discovered something they didn't want found. The quantum signals, Ilara whispered. It was her project, analyzing strange energy patterns emanating from what they'd thought was empty space. But that was just theoretical research, not theoretical anymore. Rhodes activated a holo display showing a star map. Red markers indicated attack sites, dozens of them, spreading across the frontier. They're building something out here, something big. And they've been doing it for longer than we've been in space. Ilara stared at the display, her scientific mind calculating distances, patterns, implications. It's a net, she said finally. They're creating a containment field. Commander Vega nodded. We think they're trying to box us in, limit human expansion. The Meridian stumbled onto one of their construction sites. But why save me? Ilara asked. I'm just a junior researcher. Because, Captain Rhodes said, you're the only human who's directly observed their quantum relay technology and lived. Your notes survived in the pod's data core, half corrupted, but our techs are working on it. And because, Commander Vega added, humanity doesn't leave its people behind, not even at the edge of known space, not even when war is brewing. Ilara nodded, feeling strength returning to her limbs despite the months of deprivation. Humanity had crossed 11 light years to find her, not because she was important, but because she was human. And now they needed her to help them survive what was coming. The Harbinger's war room buzzed with activity as Ilara, still thin but stronger after 2 weeks of recovery, stood before the assembled officers. The holographic display showed her reconstructed sensor readings from the Meridian's final days. The Kelthid aren't building weapons, she explained. They're building doors. Admiral Corzin, who had arrived via quantum jump 3 days prior, leaned forward. Explain, Ensign. Ilara manipulated the hologram, revealing complex energy patterns surrounding seemingly empty sectors of space. These are artificial wormholes, stable ones. The Kelthid have mastered what we've only theorized, permanent bridges across vast distances. For invasion? Asked Commander Vega. For migration, Ilara corrected. The energy signatures suggest massive matter transfer. They're bringing in their civilization piece by piece into our galaxy. A stunned silence filled the room. Humanity had encountered the Kelthid only 20 years ago, insectoid beings who communicated rarely and revealed little. Now it appeared they were transplanting their entire civilization into human-claimed space. How many? The question came. From Captain Rhodes. Based on energy output, billions, maybe more. Ilara's voice was steady despite the enormity of what she was describing. They're colonizing our region of space at a scale we've never imagined. Admiral Corzin stood. Then we have no choice but to strike first, hit their relay stations before they can bring their full military might through. With respect, Admiral, Ilara interjected, we don't know if their intentions are hostile. They destroyed your ship, Ensign, Corzin replied coldly. Yes, but only after we began actively scanning their relay. It might have been defensive rather than aggressive. Captain. Rhodes nodded. Ensign Novak has a point. We need more information before committing to war. Which is why, a new voice joined in, we're sending Ensign Novak back out there. Fleet Commander Dasari, the highest-ranking officer in the room, stepped from the shadows. Her scarred face bore testament to decades of frontier service. We've retrofitted a stealth scout ship with enhanced quantum sensors based on Novak's data. She'll lead a small team to gather intelligence on the nearest relay station. Ilara felt her heart race, back into the void that had nearly claimed her life. I'm a scientist, not a scout, she protested. You're both now, Dasari replied. And you're the only one who's seen their technology up close and survived. Within 3 days, Ilara found herself aboard the Whisper, a vessel so black it seemed to absorb light. Her team consisted of 4 specialists. Orion, the pilot with modified neural implants for enhanced reaction time. Kaida, the tactical officer whose eyes had been replaced with multi-spectrum sensors. Ven, the communications expert with skin laced with quantum-sensitive filaments. And Merrick, the security officer whose exoskeleton made him nearly as strong as a Kelthid warrior. As the Whisper detached from the Harbinger, Ilara watched the dreadnought vanish into quantum space, leaving them truly alone. Course laid in, Orion announced. ETA to the relay coordinates, 15 hours. Remember, Ilara said, we observe only, no active scans. We can't risk detection. The crew nodded in silent agreement. They were humanity's eyes in the growing dark, seeking answers to questions no one had thought to ask before. Who were the Kelthid really? What drove them to cross between galaxies? And most importantly, could peaceful coexistence still be possible in the face of what looked increasingly like a silent invasion? As the Whisper accelerated toward its destination, Ilara wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake returning to the void. But humanity needed answers, and she was their best hope of finding them before war consumed the stars. The Whisper drifted, engines cold, 30,000 kilometers from the Kelthid relay station. From this distance, it appeared to be nothing more than a cluster of asteroids. Only the subtle energy readings detectable by their specialized sensors revealed its true nature. I've never seen anything like it, Ven whispered, his quantum-laced skin glowing faintly in response to the distant energies. It's breathing. Ilara studied the readouts. The quantum fluctuations follow a pattern, like a heartbeat. It's more organic than mechanical. For 3 days they had observed in silence. They'd witnessed 6 Kelthid vessels emerge. From seemingly empty space, each passing through an invisible threshold that momentarily rippled with bluish light. Twice they'd seen ships enter, vanishing to wherever, or whenever, the gate led. There, Kaida said suddenly, her artificial eyes zooming in on a new disturbance. Something's coming through. Something big. The space before the asteroid cluster shimmered, Unlike the previous transitions, this disturbance spread across a vast area. Alarms blared on the Whisper's bridge. "Energy spike!" Orion called out. "Off the charts!" "Stealth systems holding," Marek reported. "But if that keeps building, they'll detect our heat signature." Ilara made a quick decision. "Take us behind the third moon. We'll observe from there." As the Whisper maneuvered into position, the quantum gate fully activated. What emerged wasn't a ship but a structure. A massive habitat at least 20 kilometers long, being towed by smaller vessels. Its surface teemed with movement. Thousands, perhaps millions, of Kelthid. "That's a city," Ilara breathed. "They're bringing entire cities through." "How many can they have?" Orion asked, awe and fear mingling in his voice. Before Ilara could answer, the Whisper's communication system crackled to life. "Unknown vessel," came a clicking, synthesized voice. "You are observed. Maintain position." They'd been discovered. "Stealth systems are intact," Marek insisted, checking diagnostics. "How did they—" "It's Ven," Ilara realized. "His quantum-sensitive skin is resonating with their technology. They can see him." Ven looked down at his faintly glowing hands in horror. "I'm sorry, I didn't know." "No choice now," Kaida said, tactical systems coming online. "We run or we fight." Ilara held up her hand. "Wait, they said maintain position, not prepare to be destroyed. Let's see what they want." "That's insane," Marek argued. "They killed your entire crew on the Meridian." "We don't know that for certain," Ilara countered. "And this might be our only chance to establish communication." After tense discussion, they agreed to hold position while keeping escape vectors primed. Within minutes, a small Kelthid vessel detached from the habitat and approached. "They're hailing us again," Ven reported. "Open a channel," Ilara ordered. The view screen activated, revealing a Kelthid. Its exoskeleton gleamed iridescent green, and multiple eyes studied them with alien intensity. "You observe our gateway," it said in halting, synthesized English. "Why?" Ilara stepped forward. "My name is Ensign Ilara Novak of the United Nations Space Command. We came seeking understanding." "Understanding," the Kelthid repeated. "This concept, valuable. You survived destruction of previous vessel." "Yes," Ilara replied cautiously. "Were you responsible for that attack?" "Not attack. Protection. Your scanning damaged gateway stability. Many died when energy pattern disrupted. The implications hit Ilara like a physical blow. The Meridian's active. Scans hadn't just been detected. They had accidentally interfered with the gate's operation." "We didn't know," she said softly. "We didn't understand your technology." "Now you seek understanding," the Kelthid observed. "This is evolution. Come, witness, learn." The invitation stunned everyone on the bridge. "It's asking us to visit their habitat," Kaida translated unnecessarily. "It's asking us to trust them," Marek corrected, hand still hovering near his weapon. Ilara stared at the alien being on the screen, weighing humanity's fear against the possibility of preventing war through knowledge. "We accept," she said finally. "But we'll need to inform our command." "Time limited," the Kelthid replied. "Gateway cycle completes in 6 hours. After, we continue journey. Decision now." Ilara looked at her crew, seeing their uncertainty reflected back at her. "Sometimes," she said quietly, "humanity has to take leaps of faith." She turned back to the screen. "We're coming, but we'll be armed." "As are we," the Kelthid responded. "This is wisdom." As the Whisper cautiously approached the massive habitat, Ilara recorded a message to be transmitted to the Harbinger via quantum burst. Whether this was first contact or final mistake, humanity would know what they had discovered. And if they didn't return, perhaps their sacrifice would prevent a war born of mutual misunderstanding. The Keltid habitat dwarfed the whisper as they approached. What had appeared solid from a distance now revealed itself as a latticework of interconnected structures, each housing thousands of the insectoid beings. Their guide, who had introduced itself as Xeric, led them through sterile docking procedures before escorting them inside. Atmospheric composition adjusted for human compatibility, Xeric explained as they entered. Limited duration possible. Your biology requires different balance. Ilara and her team wore environmental suits regardless, though sensors confirmed the air was breathable. Trust had limits. The interior was unlike anything human architects would design: open spaces with few flat surfaces, structures extending in 3 dimensions without regard for a consistent up or down. Keltid moved in all directions, some walking on what humans would consider walls or ceilings. Your habitat, Ilara observed, it's designed for zero-gravity adaptation. Yes, Xeric confirmed. Our original world had minimal gravitational pull. We evolved for space before we built machines to travel it. They passed chambers filled with glowing crystalline structures, some as small as a human fist, others towering, 3 meters high. Each pulsed with the same rhythmic energy they'd detected from the quantum gate. These are your navigation systems? Kaida asked, her artificial eyes recording everything. Memory crystals, Xeric corrected. History of our people. Each contains experiences of 10,000 individuals. You download memories? Ven asked, his quantum-sensitive skin tingling in proximity to the crystals. We preserve. Our physical forms die. Knowledge continues. Marek remained tense, hand never straying far from his weapon. Why show us this? Why reveal your technology? Xeric's compound eyes shifted, focusing on each of them in turn. Because you must understand, we do not invade. We flee. The revelation came as they entered a vast central chamber. A holographic display, similar to but far more advanced than human technology, showed a galactic map, but not of the Milky Way. This was another galaxy entirely, and large sections of it were missing. Not unexplored, but gone, collapsed into nothingness. Our home galaxy is dying, Xeric explained. A cascading quantum decay began 3,000 of your years ago. We cannot stop it. We can only escape. That's why you're building the gates, Ilara realized. You're evacuating your entire civilization. Yes. Many billions already transferred, many billions more waiting. Orion studied the map intently. How many habitats like this one? Over 10,000 completed, 8,000 in transit, 12,000 under construction. The scale was almost incomprehensible. This wasn't just migration. It was the transplantation of an entire spacefaring civilization. The quantum gates, Ilara said. They're not weapons. No. Bridges across void. Without them, journey would take millions of years. With them, we step between galaxies in moments. But why our space? Marek asked, still suspicious. Why not uninhabited regions? Xeric's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or frustration. All space inhabited, if not by you, by others. We chose regions with compatible life. Humans adapt, survive, like us. You've been studying us, Ilara realized. Yes, for centuries. You overcome, you persist, you do not surrender to void. A deep rumble vibrated through the habitat, and the crystalline structures pulsed in unison. Gateway activating, Xeric announced. Next phase begins on the massive display. They watched as another habitat materialized near the gate. The migration continued, unceasing. How long? Ilara asked. How long until your evacuation is complete? 50 of your years, Xeric replied, if decay does not accelerate. And if it does? Zirik's eyes dimmed slightly. Then many will die, including you. Us? How does your galaxy's decay affect Earth? Quantum universe connected, all matter entangled at deepest level. If our galaxy collapses fully, quantum shockwave will reach yours eventually. Not destroy, but damage. Change laws of physics in subtle ways. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just about territory or resources. The Kelthid exodus was, in its way, helping preserve humanity's future as well. We need to bring this information back, Alara told her crew. The UNSC needs to understand what's happening. Will they believe? Zirik asked. Or will they see only invasion? That, Ilara said, depends on how we tell the story. As they prepared to depart, Zirik presented Ilara with a small crystal, pulsing with gentle blue light. Memory fragment. Our journey. Our purpose. For your leaders. Ilara accepted the gift cautiously. I'll make sure they understand. Understanding, Zirik replied, is beginning of cooperation. Survival requires both our species working together. As the Whisper detached from the habitat, Ilara watched the massive structure prepare for its next quantum jump. What had begun as a reconnaissance mission had become something far more important, a chance to forge alliance rather than war. If only they could make it back to tell the tale. The Harbinger hung in space, weapons fully deployed alongside 3 other UNSC dreadnoughts. Facing them across the void were 7 Kelthid vessels, their crystalline hulls pulsing with the now familiar quantum energy. Between them floated the Whisper, having emerged from stealth to prevent what could become the first battle in an interspecies war. Admiral Corzin, please, Ilara pleaded over the comm channel. The Kelthid aren't invading. They're refugees. On the view screen, Admiral Corzin's expression remained skeptical. Refugees don't bring warships, Ensign. They're protective escorts, Ilara insisted, just as you'd protect human civilian transports. The standoff had developed rapidly after the Whisper's return. While Ilara and her team had been exploring the Kelthid habitat, Admiral Corzin had mobilized a battle group, convinced that the quantum gate represented an imminent threat. Now, 22 hours later, humanity stood on the precipice of a conflict that could span galaxies. We've reviewed your sensor data, Fleet Commander Dasari said, joining Corzin on the view screen. The energy output from those gates could be weaponized. But it isn't, Ilara countered. I've been inside their habitat. I've seen what they're doing. You've seen what they wanted you to see, Corzin replied. Captain Rhodes stepped forward on the Harbinger's bridge. Admiral, with respect, Ensign Novak's crystal contains verifiable data. The quantum decay in the Kelthid home galaxy is real. Assuming the data isn't fabricated, Corzin argued. Ilara felt desperation rising. The situation was deteriorating by the minute. The Kelthid vessels had taken defensive positions around their gate, interpreting the UNSC battle group as the threat. It appeared to be. Let me bring Zirik aboard, Ilara suggested. Let them explain directly. Absolutely not, Corzin declared. No alien boarding of UNSC vessels during tactical alert. Fleet Commander Dasari studied Ilara carefully. Why do you trust them, Ensign? After what happened to the Meridian? Because I understand now, Ilara replied. The Meridian's destruction was an accident. Our scans interfered with their gate technology. And despite that, they saved me. My escape pod didn't malfunction. They guided it to where the Harbinger could find me. This revelation caused visible surprise among the command staff. They preserved you as a messenger? Rhodes asked. They preserved me because they value life, Ilara corrected. Even alien life. Even after a misunderstanding that cost lives on both sides. A tense silence followed. Admiral, Ilara continued, humanity stands at a crossroads. We can choose fear and trigger a war that neither side wants, or we can choose understanding and face a greater threat together. Corzin's expression hardened. "That's not your decision to make, Ensign." "No," came a new voice. "It's mine." The view screen split to reveal President Nadia Varick of the United Nations Space Commission, the highest civilian authority in human space. "Madam President," Corzin acknowledged, surprised. "I've reviewed the data transmitted by the Whisper," President Varick stated. "And I've consulted with our top quantum physicists. The Kelthid crystal's information is consistent with theoretical models of quantum decay. If they're lying, they've created an extremely convincing fabrication that aligns perfectly with our most advanced scientific understanding." "That doesn't mean they're not a threat," Corzin insisted. "No," Varick agreed. "But it means we owe them the benefit of doubt." "Admiral, stand down your forces." "Madam President." "That's an order, Admiral. Humanity will not fire the first shot in what could become an extinction-level conflict based on fear alone." The tension on the bridge was palpable as Corzin struggled with the command. Finally, he nodded curtly. "Weapon systems to stand by," he ordered. Relief washed over Ilara. It wasn't peace yet, but it was a step back from the edge. "Ensign Novak," President Varick continued, "you will facilitate communication. Tell the Kelthid we wish to establish diplomatic relations to address their migration situation." "Yes, Madam President." As Ilara prepared to transmit to Zurich, she caught the expression on Fleet Commander Dasari's face, a mixture of concern and calculation. "Something troubles you, Commander?" Ilara asked privately. Dasari's scarred face twisted in a grim smile. "You're only seeing part of the picture, Ensign. The Kelthid aren't the only ones running from something. The question is, what happens when whatever they're fleeing catches up to us all?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, as Ilara opened communications with Zurich. Whatever came next would define humanity's place in a universe suddenly much larger and more dangerous than they had ever imagined. And Ilara, once lost and forgotten in the void, now stood at the center of it all. 1 year later, Ilara stood on the observation deck of Nexus Station, watching as another Kelthid habitat emerged from the quantum gate. This was the 43rd such arrival in the controlled migration zone established by the Treaty of Proxima. She was no longer Ensign Novak. Now she was Ambassador Novak, the human representative to the Kelthid High Council and architect of the alliance that had transformed humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. "Impressive, isn't it?" asked Admiral Rhodes, promoted after Corzin's resignation, as he joined her at the viewport. 3 kilometers of city, stepping between galaxies in an instant. "And we're learning more from each arrival," Ilara replied. "The quantum physics alone has advanced our understanding by centuries." The past year had been transformative. After the standoff, President Varick had pushed through the controversial Kelthid Refugee Accord, designating 12 star systems as joint settlement zones. In exchange, the Kelthid had shared limited aspects of their quantum gate technology, enough for humanity to begin developing its own applications. Not everyone was pleased. Protests had erupted across human worlds, fueled by fear of the insectoid aliens and resentment at sharing territory. But as Kelthid crystalline architecture began to appear alongside human settlements as trade networks established, the initial fear had started to fade. "The Joint Defense Fleet completed training exercises yesterday," Rhodes noted. "First time human and Kelthid vessels have conducted combat drills together. Impressive coordination." The Joint Defense Fleet had been Fleet Commander Dasari's initiative, a combined force tasked with protecting both species from external threats. Her warning about what the Kelthid were fleeing had proven prescient. "Have you reviewed the latest deep space telemetry?" Ilara asked. Rhodes nodded grimly. "The quantum decay is accelerating. The Kelthid models were optimistic. Quantum sensors deployed throughout human space had confirmed the Kelthid's warning. The collapse of their home galaxy was sending ripples across the quantum fabric of space-time, distortions that would eventually reach the Milky Way." "How long?" 30 years. maybe less. Less than the 50 years the Kelthid had initially estimated for their evacuation. Time was running out. The High Council is meeting tomorrow, Ilara said. They want to discuss accelerating the gate construction program. Currently, 5 new quantum gates were under construction, built with combined human and Kelthid technology. Each would allow the evacuation to proceed more quickly. You trust them completely now? Rhodes asked, studying her face. I trust that. Our futures are intertwined, Ilara replied carefully. Survival requires cooperation. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Xeric, now bearing the markings of a High Counselor. The Kelthid's exoskeleton had darkened with age, shifting from green to deep blue. Ambassador. Admiral. Xeric's translator had improved, removing most of the mechanical quality from its voice. The habitat's transition is complete. 30 million more of my people now safe. Congratulations, Ilara said warmly. Not celebration yet, Xeric replied. Much work remains, and new data troubling. The Kelthid activated a holographic display from a crystal embedded in its exoskeleton. The image showed the quantum decay, spreading faster than previous models had predicted. Our scientists and yours agree, Xeric continued. The wave approaches. We must prepare. The evacuation, Rhodes began, cannot be completed in time, Xeric finished. Not all my people will escape. The implications hung heavily in the air. Billions of Kelthid would be lost when their galaxy finally collapsed. Unless, Ilara said slowly, we don't just run from the wave. Unless we find a way to stop it. Xeric's compound eyes focused on her intently. You speak of theoretical possibility. No civilization has successfully contained quantum decay. No civilization has had both our species working together, Ilara countered. Human intuition and creativity combined with Kelthid quantum engineering. A shield, Rhodes mused, catching her meaning, not just against conventional threats, but against the decay itself. Xeric's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of intense thought. The combined gate network could be repurposed, create boundary condition in quantum field. A firewall between galaxies, Ilara nodded. It would require incredible power. And, sacrifice, Xeric added. Gates used for shield cannot transport. Understanding dawned on Rhodes's face. You'd be stranding those left behind. Yes, Xeric confirmed. Choice between some saved or all at risk. Ilara remembered the lonely days in her escape pod, watching life support numbers dwindle, believing she had been forgotten. The terror of facing death alone in the void. We don't leave people behind, she said firmly. Not humans, and not our allies. Noble sentiment, Xeric replied, but physics unconcerned with nobility. Then we change the physics, Ilara insisted. We find another way. As they debated possibilities, an alert sounded throughout the station. On the view screen, a diagram of the quantum gate flashed red. Energy. Surge detected, announced the station's AI. Unknown signature emerging. Before their eyes, the quantum gate activated, but not with the familiar blue glow of a Kelthid transition. This energy was dark purple, almost black, and it moved wrong, pulsing with an irregular rhythm, unlike the steady heartbeat of Kelthid technology. This is not our doing, Xeric said, mandibles clicking in alarm. From the gate emerged a single vessel, if it could be called that. It seemed to shift and flow, its form unstable, more like animated darkness than solid matter. What is that? Rhodes demanded. Xeric's translator struggled to keep up with its rapid clicking. Quantum echo. Physical manifestation of decay, not alive, not machine. Something between. It followed you, Ilara realized. Through the gates. Yes, Xeric confirmed. First harbinger, others will follow. The void reaches for us all. As alarms blared throughout Nexus Station, Ilara watched the mysterious entity drift closer. Humanity had rescued her from the void once. Now she, along with both their species, would have to find a way to save each other from a darkness that threatened to consume everything. The quantum decay wasn't just destroying one galaxy, it was coming for them all. And standing at the precipice of this new threat, Ilara felt not fear, but determination. Humanity and the Kelthid, former strangers now unlikely allies, would face this challenge together. Because out in the deep black, between stars, no one should be forgotten, no one should be abandoned, and no one would be, not while she had breath to fight. "Alert the Joint Fleet," she ordered. "All ships to defensive positions, and open a channel to Earth."